Imagine opening your credit report and discovering information that simply doesn't look right. The question becomes, what happens when you challenge it? Section 1681I addresses what happens when a consumer disputes the completeness or accuracy of information contained in a consumer reporting agency's file. The consumer must notify the consumer reporting agency of the dispute. Once that happens, the statute establishes a process for investigating the disputed information. It requires a reasonable reinvestigation. The purpose is to determine whether the disputed information is inaccurate and to record its current status, or delete the information when required by the statute. And generally, that reinvestigation must be completed within 30 days after the agency receives the dispute. The standard period is 30 days. Under certain circumstances, that period may be extended by up to 15 additional days when the consumer provides relevant information during the original 30-day period. But the consumer reporting agency isn't supposed to investigate in isolation. Before the expiration of 5 business days after receiving the dispute, the consumer reporting agency generally must notify the person who provided the disputed information. And the notice must include the relevant information about the dispute that the agency received from the consumer. The information you submit matters. During the reinvestigation, the consumer reporting agency is required to review and consider all relevant information submitted by the consumer during the applicable period. But what happens if the consumer reporting agency believes the dispute is frivolous or irrelevant? The agency must notify the consumer of that determination within 5 business days after making it. When a dispute is determined to be frivolous or irrelevant, the notice must include the reasons for that determination and identification of information needed to investigate the disputed information. What happens when the disputed information is found to be inaccurate or incomplete, or when it cannot be verified? The statute provides that the consumer reporting agency shall promptly delete or modify the information as appropriate based on the results of the reinvestigation. If disputed information was deleted after the reinvestigation, it generally cannot simply be reinserted without the furnisher certifying that the information is complete and accurate. And if the information is reinserted, the consumer must receive written notice within the statutory timeframe. Once the reinvestigation is completed, the consumer must receive written notice of the results within 5 business days after completion. It must state that the reinvestigation was completed. And upon request, it must explain the procedure used to determine the accuracy and completeness of the disputed information. But what if the reinvestigation doesn't resolve the dispute? Section 1681I allows the consumer to file a brief statement setting forth the nature of the dispute. And when that statement is filed, the statute generally requires the consumer reporting agency to identify the information as disputed in subsequent consumer reports containing that information. Look at what this creates: a documented process, the original information, the dispute, the supporting information, the reinvestigation, the result, and, when applicable, the deletion, modification, or continued notation of the disputed information. A credit report can affect major decisions in your life. That's why accuracy matters.